Welcome to Uplifting Conversations. Today's conversation is with the dynamic Bilal Little and Devon Drew of DFD Partners. The word that I keep coming back to is uplifting. I have this conviction based on my lived experience that uplifting people or the planet doesn't have to be draining. It can actually feel uplifting to the person who's making that impact. I am beyond excited to connect with you guys on this platform. If I may talk my stuff for a second here, I was telling Bilal before we got on that they should have never let us get together. Man, you talked about how the energy doesn't lie. What you guys are doing has moved tons of people, whether they've heard you at Future Proof, whether they've heard you on Josh Brown's podcast. I think it's immediate what your heart for the change that you're trying to make is and what your capability is to make that change. So I am thrilled to share what DFD Partners is doing for the industry, thrilled to share your stories here on this platform. And so, I'll let you guys get into kind of where you're coming from and what you've done. But I would like to start, if you don't mind, by giving folks a brief description of what DFD Partners is. And then also kind of what your professional pedigree is, because both of you guys have some impressive institutions that you've come from and some impressive backgrounds. So let's shine a light on that first before we get into your journeys.
And we really appreciate that, TB. Really, really do, man. This is such a blessing to be on the show. Love what you're doing and your messaging and the synergies that our businesses can have, and look forward to growing together. So like you mentioned, my name is Devon Drew, founder and CEO of DFD Partners. DFD actually stands for, and a lot of people ask me, Diligence Fund Distributors, right? And what we are is a data-driven distribution platform for asset managers to help them scale more efficiently with tech enablement, right? And when you look at the why, right? And you look at the top 20 asset managers in the industry gaining nearly 50% of all the flows, and taking a step back, you're looking at 90% of the flows going just to 10% of the managers, right? So just think about if you were, that diverse manager, right? And you're really struggling, you came from a big shop, but you're struggling to fundraise, or you came from a big asset manager and you're on your own, and you're at that $500 billion mark, and you're trying to get up up there, or you're a fund one that's trying to raise your first 100. How do you compete against the big boys, right? How do you punch above your weight class? So what we're really designed to do is leverage both public data and paid data, being able to run it through our machine learning process and take a fund manager that has that product fit and pair them together with an allocator with the product need, thus shortening the sales cycle, reducing their client acquisition costs, all the while not having to add to expensive headcount. And if we can do that, and we've demonstrated that we can, then more and more, when you start talking about the inclusive capital, that starts flowing our way, right? Because our whole thing and our whole mantra is pairing you with your ideal client. And if we could keep that in mind, then it's never easy, but it's going to remove some of the barriers for raising capital.
Yeah, no, I think about it, and I've thought about you guys' business a lot and how valuable it is, even for someone in my position. And like finding product fit for us, Uplifting Capital took ingenuity, took creativity, took a lot of hard work. Finding market fit takes resources, right? Yeah. Like a hard stop, it takes resources. Right. And for some folks, they can pay for boots on the ground. Right. But you guys are enabling that really, really efficiently through technology, which is incredible.
Yeah, and thinking of it from just an economic standpoint, you look at 77% of the business development professionals are making over $400,000, right? And then you take that to a top quartile performer, you're looking at anywhere from 750 to $1 million a year. Not a lot of people can afford that, right? Not a lot of people can have the boots on the ground that can resemble a small army to be able to give those type of business development efforts, right? Those are very, very difficult to replicate.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, I ain't got it.
I'm
patting my pockets as I say that. so tell me, so obviously there is a really, really unique skill set and set of experiences that goes into being able to even imagine a company like this and then execute it on the level that you have. why don't you share a little bit of the background that's informed your ability to do this?
Right. So this is my 16th year in asset management distribution. Before DFD Partners, I was actually at a very, very small firm called Vanguard. And at that
I think I've
small
heard of them. I think I've heard of
yeah,
them.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're out in PA, I think, but yeah, so at that large asset manager, you see it from the other side of the spectrum, right? You literally see people calling to put money with you, right? Before I was at Vanguard, the only people that would call me was like my mom, right? And now I had, and now, then I was at Vanguard and had allocators and advisors reaching out, figuring out how they can implement Vanguard strategies within their portfolio. And then kind of a light click. The power of the retail investor, the power of the end client is more powerful than I think any of the other large asset managers could even fathom, right? When you're looking at just the tailwinds that are happening, not yesterday, but now, right? You have the $68 trillion changing hands over the next 20 years. You have each and every day the background, the face, and the profile of wealth changing before our eyes. And now more than ever, the end client is demanding more impactful, diverse, and differentiated solutions within their investment portfolios that more represent who they are culturally and what their beliefs are aligned to, right? So all those are tailwinds to say, hey, listen, if we were able to come up with a platform that is diverse in nature, right? Diverse in background, diverse in gender, diverse in asset class, diverse in generation, which all encompassing is inclusive, right? If we were able to not only come up with that, but being able to leverage data, leverage AI, to leverage ML, to be able to cut through the noise and actually get you to a captive audience, then we might be onto something. And a funny thing happened when we started mentioning the story and we started building it from the ground up. We were getting yes after yes after yes, right? And then it's building out the technology, right? So what I did was I don't come from a technology background. I come from a distribution background. So making sure that we surrounded ourselves with technical advisors that have over 40 years of experience in the business. One of my technical advisors is a rocket scientist. Another part of our dev team came from PitchBook that got bought by Morningstar. Another part of our tech team was on Hidden Levers, and then they got bought by Ryan for 30x, right? Must be nice, right? And then if you look at from a data scientist perspective, we have a data scientist that had experience in Morgan Stanley and Apollo and in the NFL, right? So really creating that team of specialist domain experts to be able to help uplift the entire organization and in turn the entire industry.
Yeah, man. You're sweet talking me talking about where asset management and wealth management is headed, man, because that is,
Yeah,
I'm betting on that trend. So you're talking team, and I got Bilal sitting here
yeah,
quietly shaking,
he's ready, man.
like he's
He's
not an
ready to take
absolute
off.
killer. So why don't you share a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah. So look, I mean, I think Devon hit the nail on the head as far as sort of where we are today and where we're going. So the reason that I decided to join DFD Partners was really about him and my buy-in to what we were doing, because no one in the industry had, I would say, the exact same alignment from a background perspective than I did. So I got about 16 years of financial services experience as well. Devon and I actually met when we took our Series 7 about 15 years ago, which was an interesting and funny story, which I'll let him tell you offline one day. Um, but I started my career at Lehman Brothers. And, the interesting part about that period in time is you learn a lot as a young, I'd say, minority in the business. You just want to stick around, especially during the financial crisis, right? And then I was with a company which was the subsidiary of Lehman, which was Neuberger Berman. I was with them and expanded my career, and they moved me out to California, calling on advisors, working with advisors, helping them build investment portfolios. And I went to business school at SC while I was out in California, and that's when I joined BlackRock, another small firm with some experience in distribution. But that period of time let me know that everything that we were doing from a distribution perspective was all about collecting data and trying to figure out a way to use that data more effectively. But it was my conversations with Devon where he's like, dude, there's got to be a better way to distribution. And in distribution today, leading up to sort of why I decided to join DFD Partners, was all about pushing. You hire salespeople, like he mentioned, this expensive overhead. They go out and collect data, and they pick up the phone and they email advisors all day. That's what they do, right? That's a broken model. You're trying to force your way into something. What we wanted to do was reverse engineer that entire experience and help unique managers rise to the top, and let's pull them through leveraging the information and technology. And technology is the great, I would say, giant in the industry today, because it allows people to scale and get depth and get growth when you actually have limited resources. So that's why I joined DFD, and I sit as the president and head of advisor engagement as we continue to build out this platform.
Man, I love it. So I think that gives people a good flavor for where you guys are and what your capabilities are to execute on kind of the value promise of what you built. I would love to dig into and really the kind of purpose of this platform is to get into the why and where you came from, and particularly to start out with. One of the things we talk about is not skipping over the hard stuff. You guys had good jobs. like people are fighting to get where you left. What was it? Because it has to be more than money, because the promise of that was there. It has to be more than kind of career and status, because the promise of that was there. What was it that drove each of you to a place where you would take this leap of faith and build something that didn't exist?
Yeah, clearly money is not it, because to go from a large institution to getting no paycheck for a long period of time, it's clearly not about money. When I think back on my 16 years, and I've had some, I guess, decent success, at my organizations. I look back at what is my impact. So in 16 years, I have not gotten one person actually that looks like me and my similar background hired. And you try to figure out, well, why is that? And it's always kind of the cultural fit, or the, whatever excuse there could be. And the last time that happened, I was with an organization, and they were building out an entire, hybrid wholesaler model, and they're hiring like 30 people. And, I was very judicious in referring 5 people, right? And not one of them got hired. And they were folks at JP and, other large organizations. And I'm like, well, why is that? Why is that? Right. And what is going to be my impact? So around that time, George Floyd got his life taken, and it really allowed me to sit back and say, you know what, forget the money. Let's go and build something truly disruptive. And by truly disruptive, if when we're able to disrupt the flow of capital, we'll be able to create our own mark, and we'll be able to hire people with diverse backgrounds, and diverse in background, not only diverse in background, but diverse in thought as well, right? We're able to build this thing from the ground up. And that's also why we came out with our big initiative. And our big initiative stands for Bridging the Investment Gap, when it is our mission and our vision to raise $1 trillion for diverse manager AUM by 2030. Now, they may seem like lofty goals, but once we do that,
I think there's something wrong with the audio, because I thought you said that with the T.
With the T, yeah, with the T, right? We talk in T's over here, right? Yeah. So when we do help our managers and industry wide get to that, the sad thing is it won't even represent 3% of the total market, right? So we're not talking about we're not talking about tremendous market share growth, but being able to continue to prove out our concepts, right? When we're able to get that product fit with that product need, if we continually do that and keep our clients first, we'll get there. Case in point, last quarter alone, we helped our managers raise a little under $100 million in one quarter. Now, for your larger organizations, that's not, that's probably a day's worth of work. But think about some of the smaller managers that we've been working with, and in turn, folks have, seen the early success we had, and now all of a sudden we have $700 billion asset managers that are looking to do the same, because they're trying to go from 700 to 1.5 trillion. Right. So it's like everyone, the conversation that we've had, everyone at least wants to have a conversation about cost-effective, tech-enabled scale.
Yeah, man, I can tell you, if you're looking at kind of the industry in aggregate, that may feel like a drop in the bucket for those individual managers. For us individual managers, man, that's everything. That's everything. Right. So kudos. What about you, Bilal? Like what was it?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, like the only thing that's ever drove, I would say, or driven me throughout my entire career was curiosity. That's the reason I went back to business school. It's the reason why I would take a new position. It's the reason why I would explore something different. And when Devon started to share what he was doing at DFD Partners, what was so, I would say, captivating to me was curiosity on doing something different, but having a greater impact. Our old conversation kept being about like, what is our purpose? What is our impact? Like, what are we going to be remembered for while we were here? And the truth is, while I was working at BlackRock, during the George Floyd untimely murder, what happened to me was really interesting as far as the employee outreach and the amount of people who were calling me to ask me if I was okay with the social issues. And the good thing is I found allyship in what was transpiring at the organization. So there's nothing wrong with that. The bigger issue was I had never been called or asked to go reach out to either Black financial advisors or minority banks, right, that represented me and represented my cultural views and the things that I was dealing with. And I just recognized really quickly, like there were some massive disconnects just in the industry, and the model was broken, quite frankly, and it wasn't inclusive. And then, when Devon started asking me about doing this, I said, you know what? Why take a position doing the same exact thing that I was doing before when I can go and have an impact and really inflict change on our industry and have a damn good time doing it and put a little sauce on it? That's the part, right? Our industry is stale and it's not, there's no juice to it. It's not sexy. There's a reason that there's a disconnect between generations. And that's when I was like, man, DFD Partners has it. So let's do this thing together. And we shook and we just kept it moving. So that's why I'm here. It's all aligned with purpose.
Yeah, no,
Very early, very
it's so
early
powerful.
on.
What was that, Devon?
I said we're very early on. So the future is exciting of what we have brewing.
So let's talk about that because like it's one thing to think about kind of what drives you toward this or what pushes you toward this from your prior seat, but what gives you hope in turn when you look out on the landscape and when you look at the possibilities, what gives you hope that you can actually be a conduit for the change that you're seeking or for the country?
Yeah, man, I'm glad you asked that. So the short answer is there's no hope, right? Because I don't hope, because hope is not a strategy for me. There's no hope and there's nothing below my feet, right? There's no safety, there's no parachute, there's no plan B. It is just this. Now, why I am bullish on the future of DFD Partners, having Bilal as the president, having folks like you in the ecosystem, TB, is for the demographic shifts that we're seeing, right? And Bilal is so in tune with data, right? And he's all hours of the night he's sending over articles and emails and Slacks and whatever case is. And you look at what's happening with, let's say, the largest asset manager in the world, BlackRock. I mean, like BlackRock just lost business from the state of South Carolina and two other major state in public plans. For what? Because they are not aligned with who they represent. Also taking it the next step, right? We had a $2 billion Taft-Hartley plan reach out to our platform. Say, listen, we're $2 billion. 90% of our plan participants are Black and brown. Our participants came in the office essentially and said, we want more representation of who's managing our money. So let them to go, meet with the consultants, meet with the investment committee. Then they came to us and say, hey, listen, we're going to allocate $500 million out of that $2 billion to diverse managers. However, our portfolios are 100% managed by the same, right? And now I'm not saying the same person, but the same demographic, right? So if you look at that, shift that's happening, not last year, not last month, not last week, but today, that's a massive tailwind, because not only from the institutional side, they're mandating to do that now. Now you're seeing it on the retail side where the end client is saying, hey, Mr. Financial Advisor, this portfolio is cool. Back testing is great, but that's not who I am as a person. And I think that's why you're starting to see just invest in parametric, and one of a rock star technology platform is SmartLeaf, right? A SmartLeaf is going to be able to change the game. And you think about from a customizable standpoint, like if you're compliant with Sharia law, right, being able to create a profile and create a portfolio that is compliant to your beliefs, right? So that's happening right now. There's big money involved in that.
Ethic,
right?
Canvas, I'll put those among those same ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give you my own anecdote exactly along the last client we landed, Foundation, hit up their financial advisor, a decent sized healthcare system foundation, hit up their financial advisor and said, our constituency looks like this. Yeah. Our managers look like this. And at least for these private equity managers, and they weren't even looking for impact. They were just looking for managers who represented what their population looked like. The impact was a bonus. We came in, we said, majority Black owned, majority woman led firm. Here's the impact that we have. They were delighted on the positive side with that. And we landed the client. Like obviously you got to show your capabilities, but people are looking for something different from the profile of their asset managers and from the strategies.
So let me jump in because this is so fascinating to me, right? There is a factor that is not numeric, which is completely different for the financial services industry. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a value that people place on their personal either bias and or just cultural views that will now inflict the way that they invest and or allocate capital in the future. If you take those states that Devon mentioned about the loss of BlackRock, they're talking about $1.5 billion that was basically being reallocated or reconstituted to different managers. Now, those states, just so we're clear, like those are predominantly white states, as an example of just culture, like ethnicity. And it doesn't matter. The point is, the face of and the profile of wealth is changing, where they're demanding unique solutions to meet their investment capabilities and needs. And that's what's so fascinating about what's taking place today.
That's incredible. So we talked a little bit about why you're bullish, Devon. What I would love to hear, maybe Bilal, you could touch on this, is what was it that gave you the mentality to not go, we need new resources and different people, and we're gonna sit inside these large organizations and lobby to death to get people to change what they're doing. Instead, my mom used to use this phrase, bloom where you're planted. You used the positions where you were in, the resources that you had, and you made the assumption that you had everything you needed in front of you to create the future that you wanted to create. What goes into that mentality, and what would you offer folks who are thinking about chasing rather than stretching what they have?
Yeah, let me defer to Devon because he created the value and view of what DFD is, and I think this is important, and I'll dovetail off of that.
Yeah.
But I would just say, as you gear up, Devon, is thinking about the position that you sit in, how much change can you actually inflict versus going out and creating a white space or blue ocean opportunity, as they say in business, and leveraging everything that you've learned, all the resources between relationships and people, to go out and create a better mousetrap and a better way to do something, which is actually more inclusive and not as invasive as people may think.
Yeah. So you got that relentlessness, Devon. I think I said on Twitter this morning, collective action is effective action. I've been rhyming today. I had a basketball game last night. I told somebody, stop awaiting outcomes, create outcomes, right? Like, so what made you decide, instead of awaiting an outcome, to create an outcome?
Yeah. So, for me, there's a difference between entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship. So when you look at before you go to make that leap, or if you're even considering make that leap, be an entrepreneur, which is running your business inside of your organization. So that's what I did. That's what I did at first, right? So I proved out the concept at a high level and ran my business within a large organization like it was my own business, right? So when you think about the steps that is taken to take that leap, when you're able to go and look at the bear case, bull case, base case of everything that you're doing, and then it gives you, for me, it was no turning back, right? Because I already knew I was able to, prove out the concept somewhat. And I'm like, well, if I'm able to raise some capital from, some friends and family, of course, my own capital being a lion's share of it, then I'll have what I need to really build this out, because my vision is clear. I will go to sleep every night with my vision. I wake up every morning with my vision. There's a reason, there's a reason why that we've been able to have this type of real success, because we are relentless, right? And we know the necessary conversations that it's going to take to get us there, right? And all of that started with being at this large organization, and part of me, taking the opportunity at a large organization just to see how it is run from the inside out. What are their pain points, right? What are they doing really well? What could they do better? And no matter whether it was being at a large organization of 8-9 trillion or being at a $20 billion shop, which I think was the smallest I've been at, each and every one of them have very similar pain points, right? And within our industry, that is around technology, right? So, and Bilal is great with data. A lot, BlackRock was very keen on saying, we're no longer an asset manager, we're a financial technology company, right? Correct. And then as folks started to kind of gravitate towards that, you still have an aging employee base, right? Where you're like, you know what, I've been doing the same thing for 30 years, I'm not changing now. So you could bring me all this data, you could tell me market share growth there and market metrics this and all this great data, but you know what? I have my relationships. I'm going to be able to succeed no matter what, right? So that's kind of the commonality, right? You have the organizations that are, some are forward thinking, but then the employees, and that's what makes it antiquated. People have been doing the same thing for a long time and having a lot of success. Why change, right? So I'm like, well, if we could build this from the ground up, knowing that all the tools and resources are already there, we're able to build out something, and we are patent pending currently. So something that we're doing is differentiated, right? And being able to do things the right way, knowing that the walkway was already paved from a large organization that trying to pivot, into being a financial technology company. So it's like, well, why don't we lead with tech first and being able to offer that cost-effective, tech-enabled scale to run our business? And that has led us to being able to acquire clients from our competition, right? Because we're not making any promises. We're not guaranteeing anything. We're saying, hey, listen, we'll let the data decide. If the data decides this, that's the direction, we'll advise for you. If not, it's all good, right? And I think people are really gravitated to that, right? We're not, we're not making, we're not making grandiose statements and anything. We're just saying, hey, man, listen, here's the deal. Here's what the market's saying. Here's what they're saying. You're in your route, right? And that's the point we're at right now. So to surmise, being an entrepreneur, right? So being a domain expert within your own larger organization, carving out that niche and what you're good at first. And that's the crux of being able to say, hey, listen, I know where I'm strong at, but more importantly, I know where I'm not strong at. So let me start identifying those key pieces that is around me. And when we're together, it's going to be a dangerous beast, right? So, and I think that's what we've done a decent job. And of course, we are in a position where we're hiring for some talented individuals, but we're almost there, right? And our team is small, but we punch above our weight class.
Yeah, and that the strength of that vision pulls you. I remember you said going to sleep and waking up with that vision. I remember it literally keeping me up, like that, like just not be like waking up and just having to write, waking up and just having to do stuff because
grab the phone, take the notes.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. So I want to leave people with a way to genuinely kind of move in this direction. Like asset management is changing. I think it will eventually be for the better. Wealth management is changing. The face of those verticals is changing. If people want to be a part of that change or a part of facilitating that change, maybe they don't go out and create the next DFD, but this could be financial advisor, accredited investor, institution. We call them micro acts of courage. What are some things that they could do today? What are some steps that they could take immediately to move in that direction?
Yeah, I think Bilal could answer that because he did a lot of those while he was at BlackRock.
Yeah, so I'll say this. I think the highest form of gratitude and humility and just being humble is to be self-aware and selfless. And that's when you become like self-actualized. If you kind of think about Maslow's hierarchy of self-actualization, that's the highest form, when you can literally look in the mirror and say, what can I do for someone else and expect nothing in return? And I think what we want the industry to do, and why our initiative is called Big and lock arms with us, is to become allies with us, and allies, and have allyship in this mission to not only democratize the asset management industry, but to be more inclusive, not just of black and brown people and women, but also just differentiated thought processes. And how can we actually do that in a way that is diplomatic, harmonious, and all inclusive? And I think our platform actually allows for that to take place.
It's incredible. All right, fellas, any closing thoughts for you, Devon?
No, man, we're just, we're excited to partner with folks like UTB. We looked at you, we look at you as someone that not only as a mentor, but now a friend. And, we're excited to take this journey together.
Oh man, I'm so appreciative of being in the same space and moving in the same direction with people of your character, with shared backgrounds. It makes the journey that much better, man. So let's get to it.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man.
All right, appreciate you guys. Take care. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and click the notification button so you never miss an episode.